One quick announcement. I was told that Diane Musgrave will finally have her knee surgery this coming week. So let's keep Diane in prayer that all goes well with this in her life and that she's going to be more mobile and with less pain. I pray for Diane to have good surgery. Some have asked me, what's it feel like to preach your last sermon? It's not my last sermon. I imagine I'll be invited to come back and preach here once or twice, maybe, as they look for a preacher. I know there's going to be some open spots there where I can come in and pound on you a little more. So yes, it is my last day for full-time preaching local word. I've experienced that before. 2 years over at Pottsboro, I resigned and went into mission work for 2 full years before coming here to Central. The mission work will continue. Pray for us as we go and come, that much good can happen worldwide. Bonnie was asking me this morning, are you going to do more or less or about as much as you've been doing? Lord willing, it'll be more. Justin and I want to experience some new things, new places, and find where we can do more help in all that we do. So when the funds are available, we'll be going. But also, I look forward to being on my 6 acres, growing, raising, fixing, relaxing, and sleeping. I want to say this. Thank you for 7.5 good years. I had not planned to go back into full-time preaching. But when Jessica DeFreitas called me and said, Gregg, don't you know Central's still looking? I said, oh, I'll call them. And that's the rest of the story. And this congregation has changed a lot. We've seen a lot go by death and by going to college, going other places. We see empty seats with faces and loved names that have gone on. It's sad to lose some. But it's also our responsibility to stay faithful. And so this morning I want to preach on the heart. You know, as I was growing up, I'd get in trouble. I know that's a shocker to you. And sometimes when I got in trouble, they'd look at me and they'd say, oh, Gregg, you poor little heart. Well, sometimes they use the word, you poor little picking heart. Now, I don't know what that meant, but I know I was in trouble. There's all kinds of hearts. It matters what kind of heart he has. When someone looks at you and says, God bless your heart. You've done something right. You've helped. You've given. You've shared. You built somebody up. You made somebody else feel more important than you, and they appreciate it. If someone describes you as a person of having a good heart, I know what they're saying. Don't you? If you ask about somebody and there is silence, maybe that's a point also well taken. Here are some scriptures that deal with God's aspect of a good heart. Psalm 73, verse 26. David speaking here, he says, my flesh and my heart fails, And I know you're like that. We find ourselves in predicaments. A lot of times, not because of outside influence, but because of our wrong choices. He goes on to say, but God is the strength of my heart, and he is my portion forever. You see here, a good heart is that individual who keeps seeking God's will, relying upon God. And even though there's mistakes in life, you can overcome if you keep focused upon God's strength. Matthew 5, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, blessed are the pure in heart. Well, we know what the other side of it is. We know what impurity is. Matthew 12:34, which was read today. A good man out of his good treasure of the heart brings forth good things. And an evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth evil things. No wonder we look at Jesus and say, what a great example. It says, everywhere he went, he did that which was good. What a good heart that died for us. Proverbs 4:23. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. You ever thought about that? What are the issues of life? Well, anything that pertains to your life. What keeps you going? What keeps you alive? What strengthens your life? And what damages your life? The issues of life in the wrong area is abortion, suicide, murder, euthanasia, all these things that are acts against someone's life. You know, I just wonder, in our society, do they not hold life precious? Someone dies. Someone loved them. Someone cared about them. Someone was depending on them. Keep thy heart with all diligence. I believe David in this chapter is exhorting his son. Listen to my words. Have you been listening? Those words, he wanted them, his son, to know about life and the expectations that the father had for the son. And he says, in exhorting his son, you keep your heart with all diligence. Well, no wonder an older man talking to a younger man, a father, a son, it might not be in a relationship except maybe friendship, that the older says to the younger, do you know how you're acting? Do you know how you ought to act? There's manners, there's etiquette, there's truth. Don't be selfish. Consider the other person. Put away a perverse mouth. A person has a good heart. It's not going to allow that ugliness to come out in vulgar words, loose words, curse words that would embarrass your grandmother, your mother, or any other lady. Keep yourself upright. Does that mean, young man, keep walking? Don't lay down on the job. No, upright means standing right, for the right, because you know what is right. Being upright means keeping your word. If you make your promise, fulfill it. It means speaking words of exhortation where you're building the other person up and not boasting of what you've done and how great you are. Be upright. Be accountable. where you can be counted on. Can you be counted on in the kingdom, in the church? The church needs deacons. The church needs elders. The church needs teachers. The church needs servants. Not just in and out business. Someone who comes and stays and is a part. He says, stay away from evil. Paul says, watch out for your companions. They may corrupt by their saying, oh, it's okay to do this. Jump in. It doesn't matter how you live, how you act, how you're seen. Be sloppy. Wear dirty clothes. It does matter. I believe the heart is the most precious thing that a man should guard. Because out of the heart come the issues of life. In Matthew 12, verse 43 and 45. Matthew 12 says a lot. Here's the time when the council took counsel against Jesus to kill him. Religious men wanting to kill. And when people look at us, say, you're supposed to be religious, but you're not. You're not consistent. Look how you act. Verse 43. When the unclean spirit is gone out of the man, he walks through dry places seeking rest and finds none. Then he says, I will return into my house from whence I came out. And when he has come, he finds it empty, swept, and garnished. Aren't you glad there's no unclean, no evil spirits today to possess us, to take control of us without our agreement or permission? Jesus says, when the evil spirit is cast out, replace him with something good. Here's what happens when you don't replace that evil spirit with something good. They come in, multiply. In the end is worse. How do you get rid of a bad habit? You begin a good habit. Where you don't want to go back to that bad habit because the good has replaced it. And all your attention and happiness is on that goodness that you've replaced it with. Because you know how bad that bad habit was. You get that? How bad it is to have a bad habit? It controls you. Every time I see a person with an idiot stick in his mouth, he's being controlled. I had a car. I don't remember if it was a truck or a car. And I don't remember why, but every once in a while, if you wasn't careful, you'd knock the transmission into neutral. It must have been a floorboard. Because I can't imagine a stick shift. You knock it, you get into neutral, but there it is. You reach for something and you hit that gear and it goes into neutral, and all of a sudden your engine sounds like it's gonna. It's just so loud and whining, and you're not going anywhere. You ever put a car in neutral by accident, and all of a sudden you're not going? I think sometimes we've knocked our spiritual gear into neutral, and we're sitting still. And we're revving our motor, and it's not going anywhere because we're not living right. I think that's what we've done, some of us, because that's what an empty heart is. A heart is not like a home anymore. Nothing resides there except what we've kept and what we've excluded. Yes, our house is cleansed when we become a Christian. We've been made pure and holy. What happened to Corinth? They became righteous, justified. Read 1 Corinthians 9, 1 Corinthians 6, and following. But 2 Corinthians tells us some of the problems that remain with them. We're expected to fill our house after the evil spirit, after the old man of sin is washed away and we become a new creature. What happens when we don't fill our heart? Well, do you remember that old maxim that says, nature abhors a vacuum? It's an idiom used to express the idea that empty or unfilled spaces are unnatural as they go against the laws of nature and physics. If we do not make the effort to fill our new home with good things, with Christ, then evil things are going, even though they might have been washed away, they're going to come back. Yeah, Corinth. They were washed, they were sanctified, they were justified. Chapter 6, verse 11. But then in 2 Corinthians 12, verse 20 to 21, later they were engaged in sinful conduct. Once again, this means we're not perfect. What's the difference of Christian? His sin's forgiven. What's the difference of a non-Christian? He's living in sin. And the difference is a Christian. 1 John chapter 1, verse 7. If he continues to walk in the light, he's cleansed. When you're walking according to the Bible in a Christian life, discipline, showing self-control, saying no to temptation as much as you can. But when you make mistakes and you sin willfully, you ask God to forgive you. You see, it's like those in 2 Peter. They'd been bought with the Lord. They escaped the pollution of the world through Jesus Christ. And then in chapter 2, verse 20, it says they become entangled again. You ever been tripped? Step on something that you thought was solid ground, or you were stepping over something, all of a sudden you're entangled in a twine or a weed or a vine, and you go head first. We're entangled with the world. Verse 21 and 22 says the latter end is worse than the beginning. How does it become worse? Because of the hardness of the heart. Let's prevent that from happening. To avoid all of that, we fill our home, our heart, with the principle. Sanctify the Lord God in your heart, Peter tells us in chapter 3, verse 15. That word sanctified means set apart. Set yourself apart from the world. And I'm living after spirituality. Everything that is correct and right. That's what I'm living after. Oh, do you regard Christ as your companion with you every day? Then your heart's on the right path. Be selective what you allow enters your mind. A young man in Africa invited us to come and work with him in Kenya. To get to know who he was, I went to his Facebook profile. And there on his page showed a lot of activity, spiritual activity, and all of a sudden there were some pictures that would embarrass you. Did someone else put them there? I don't know. Don't allow. What I'm saying is sometimes things happen beyond your control, and the world will force it on us, whether we invite them in or not. So don't do it on purpose. Is the word dwelling in you? Then it's going to tell you, stay away from this area. Stay away from that influence. Don't let this picture go in front of you. Throw it all away. Close your eyes. Solomon says, I will not allow any profane thing to be set before my eyes. Remember the transformation, Romans chapter 12. By the renewing of your mind, you see, when I kick the gear into neutral, I'm not allowing the transformation to continue to take place in my life because I'm idle. I procrastinate. I say no. I serve self. What about the Lord? Study and fulfill it by putting it into practice. Utilize every opportunity to study the Word. Listen to it on records, on tapes, on. Go to our Facebook page and listen to my past sermons or daily sermons or another congregation's website and go listen to somebody else preach. Go listen. Yearn for something new, for something to be reminded of that you believe and know and practice. Attend every service that you can. Fill your heart with psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. He says, let the word of Christ richly dwell within you, Colossians 3:16. Here's that word. You'll remember a song and words when you might not remember the book, chapter, and verse. You put it to melody, you'd be surprised how many youth songs our young people sing at summer camps that come right out of the book. And they know them word for word. What condition is your home? The evil spirit's been cast out. Is your home, your heart, empty? Or is it filled with all goodness? Are you imitating Christ? Are you allowing Him to guide you? A new year's coming up. Let it be a new you if necessary. Put these things into practice. Have a clean, pure heart. After. 4. To glorify God and His Son, Jesus Christ. Do you need to respond? How many invitations have you had opportunity to say, God, I've been living wrong. Or God, I'm outside your family. I need to have a new birth. Will we put it off? Or will we respond? While we stand, while we come.